right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Tara Carpenter, and I am the implementation manager for the Palace Project app. I'm joined with my colleagues, Jill Scarson and Carissa Egan. So we'll be here talking to you today about the Palace Collection Manager. I'm going to share some slides, talk to you about an overview of the manager, and then Carissa is going to share a live demo of the software. And Jill will be monitoring the chat to make sure that she answers your questions, or really what we usually do is for most of them, we like to read them aloud at the end to make sure everyone hears them, and also they're saved for the recording for posterity's sake. So yeah, feel free though as we go to pop the questions in and then we will respond accordingly. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. We've got our slides going. And we have a slideshow. And then Jill or Carissa, can you give me a thumb up?
Beautiful.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, so here we go. We're going to talk Palace Collection Manager today. So here in a nutshell, we're talking about accessing the Collection Manager, how to change your password, how to add admins, the catalog page and item records. We'll talk about lists and lanes, and then of course the demo and Q&A. So there'll be plenty of time for questions. So first up, accessing the Palace Collection Manager. So now, if you are from a public, special, or academic library, you are probably most likely live in the app right now. We are finishing up with a handful of libraries this week, but the majority of you should be live, so you should have access to the Collection Manager now. If you do not have access, please email us support@thepalaceproject.org. We will continue to send that email out to you, but please feel free, just let us know which library you're from and your email address. We'll make sure that you get added in. Basically, we have a huge spreadsheet with hundreds of emails, so I've done my best here, but if we missed you, just let us know. It's very easy to add you in. So this collection manager address, il.thepalaceproject.org/admin, that's for all of the libraries in Illinois. You're all sharing a server, but you have your individual logins. So you'll log in with your email and your password. You can reset your password with the forgot your password little link there. Then that will just email you and trigger, you to go ahead and reset it on your own self-service. Or if you have trouble, just email again support@thepalaceproject.org and we'll help you get reset on our end. So once you log in, you'll see at the top, and Chris is going to show you the CM live here, but at the top right, there is an option to click on System Configuration. And if you go into there, you'll be able to see all the admins for your library, and you'll be able to add admins just by clicking on Admins tab, entering the person's email and password. So you can self-serve that, or we can help you with it. But just to simplify the process, you're able to do that yourself. And to change your own password, you'll click on your email address at the top right. You'll see it as soon as you log in. It'll have this little drop down, and you'll see that you can change password. Just click on that, and you can reset your password immediately. All right, once you do that, then you're going to go ahead and take a look at the collection manager to see what is it all about, what's going on in here. So the first screen is the catalog page, and what this is it mirrors your catalog page in the app. So how you see your library in the app is how it's going to appear here, or really this is where you're setting up how it looks in the app. So you'll see all of your active enabled lanes, such as seasonal reads, always available ebooks or fiction. The horizontal categories are what we call lanes. You can also sort here the same way you can sort in the apps. If you can see these tabs here, it defaults to all, but you can also sort by ebooks or audiobooks when you're browsing. You can also search in the top right here. There's the search bar, and it's the same as the app, search by title, search by author, search by subject. So that happens over here in the top right. And then you can click on any item on the catalog screen to view the details, the copies available. You can edit metadata and hide titles for your library only, specifically your library, not the shared collection. And you can add an item to a list. And so when you go in, so here, let me go back for a second. So we're on the catalog screen here. So now I'm going to show you what happens when you click on a title. So say we click on Coyote Hills. This is what you'll see. So first it starts with the details tab right here. It's going to tell you about the book. This is an ebook, the title, the author, publisher, publication date, the categories assigned via the metadata, the audience, and the distributor. So this book comes from the Palace Marketplace. So for your large shared Rails collection, that content is coming through the Palace Marketplace. So the content that was formerly in Boundless, that will be coming through Palace Marketplace, and also new content purchased by Rails will also show up from that distributor. And you'll also see here one of two copies available, so you'll be able to check that availability if you're looking into it for whatever reason. So there's one to check out, and then the summary for the book down at the bottom there. And then we'll go over to the other tabs, Edit, Classifications, and Lists. So here, if you click on that Edit tab, it will bring up the ability to edit and hide titles. So if, for instance, you wanted to hide this from your collection, for your library, it's in the shared collection, and for whatever reason you don't want it, you would just click that Hide button, and then that will go ahead and hide it from your collection. Then you can see you can edit, the title, subtitle, authors, contributors, series info, language. Then next up in the middle here, update audience or genre. So if you see an item and you feel like it's been, misclassified, that the audience is wrong, the fiction or nonfiction classification is wrong, or if you want to add a genre, you can do all of that from that next tab. And then finally on the right, you can add items to a list from the Lists tab. So right now you can see this is currently in a list called Opening Day Collection Adults. So you could delete that if you don't want that there anymore. And then you can also add it to a new list, or you can add it to an existing list by you would just select the one from the dropdown and click Add, or create a new list to start a whole new list with this as being the first item in that new list. All right, so speaking of lists, next up. So lists, when we talk about lists are the building blocks of lanes. And really lists are a curated collection or list of titles that you put together based on a theme. And whatever the theme may be, it's up to you. So it can be a holiday, it can be in a program at your library, it can be, like a monthly event, like a poetry month or Women's History Month or something. So you can see on the left-hand side here under where it says List Manager, these are some pre-made lists we've already created, like, AAPI month, mysteries, Amazon published titles. So once you create a list, it goes over there to that List Manager. But first, when you're making a new list, you'll click on Create New List, and then you'll go ahead and set up the parameters for your list. And you can make the list, include all formats or just book or audiobook. You can sort by relevance, title, or author. And then you'll go ahead and build out your filters. So depending on what you're doing here, you can filter on distributor, publisher, publication date, genre, language, subject, audience, author, title, or classification. We have the modifiers here on the dropdown. You can have equals to make it, very exact match. Contains if you want like a looser matching. For some of these, if you are adding, say you have a list of titles or a list of authors and you're going to keep searching one after another, you can go ahead and click on this Clear Filters After Search. So as you do each search, it's not building. But if you do want to build on a search, you would not check that. You would just start building. So you can see here my example. I started with the subject equals gardening or subject equals plants. And you can also adjust this to say either any of the filters can be matched or all of them have to be matched, depending how specific or exact you want that or loose you want that. The other thing to note when you're building a list is that you'll need to decide whether you want it to update automatically or if you want to be the one who's curating it over time. So if you want it to update automatically, you'll select automatically update this list. So basically that means anytime something new is added to your collection manager that meets these parameters, it will be automatically added to this list. And then if you don't want that, if it's manually selected, you'll go ahead and pick that instead. That means that new things will only be added when you add them. So it could be you only want, whatever maybe. Say you only want books from a certain author and you only want them before a certain date and you have all these, or maybe it's a certain theme, but it's not as easy as just setting like automatic parameters and you want to come back and be the one hand curating it, then I would recommend manually selecting titles for your list. A few more things to note. So before you save it, you need to make sure you give your list a name because you can see here on the left as you start stacking up all these lists, you want to make sure you can find them again. So you may want to give it a name, just to make sure it refers back to, you'll remember. Basically, you want it to remind you of what you were talking about when you made it, not just test list or list with the date, but yeah, usually a hint will help you figure it out so you don't have to click in. And then once you save that, you'll also save your list. Then that will go ahead and, like I said, it will show up and populate on your list manager over on the left-hand side. Once that happens, you're also able to share out the list if you want to do that. A share button will pop up at the top here, and then you'll see once you click share, basically that means it's shared out with all of the other libraries on your server. So all the libraries in Illinois could potentially see the list you made and enable it for their libraries as well. And I'll show you how to do that here in a second. Yeah, so that's the basics with list making. We have videos on this. Jill here on the call makes these lists. She's curating these lists already for your library. She does that every month. So thank you, Jill. It's a lot of work there. But she's doing this curation, but you're all welcome to do this and contribute and share your own list too if you choose to do so. So we'll share those videos too, the in-depth training videos specifically on lists and lanes. Okay, so once you have a list, now you'll click over to your lane button at the top here. And now, again, you see your lane manager on the left. And when you want to create a new lane, you'll go ahead and click Create Top Level Lane. From there, you'll be able to select from your list that you've made. You can have one or more. So say you want just my gardening list here, but say you want gardening and you want new and noteworthy and you want mysteries. You can just pull over as many lists into your lane as you want. And then again, you'll need to go ahead and edit the name and give it a name. So you name it something that's related, and then you'll save it. And then once you do that, that will create the lane. It'll automatically show up at the top of the lane manager here. And then from there, you can move them by dragging and dropping to reorder the lanes. You can also make them visible or hidden. So they default to being visible, which means they're in the catalog now. People can see them. So if you want to hide them, say you're working ahead and you've got one for, New Year's, you've got one for Black History Month, you've got one for Halloween, but it's not the time. You can go ahead and hide all those ones you did ahead of time and then just make them visible when the time is right. All right. And so, oh yeah. And so this is about creating a lane from shared lists. So if well, we already know Jill is sharing out lists, and if other librarians do too, you can feel free to go in and see what they have and, enable them as a lane if you want to. So here are some examples where you'll go to, let me come back here for a sec. So here in this available lists area, it's showing owned. Those are the ones you've created. You'll click that little drop down, and then here you'll see here, show subscribed. And now that's going to show you the ones that have been shared with you. So then you can go ahead and click that add to lane to go ahead. So say I want to make a lane with all of this cool summer reading stuff, I would add those all to a lane. And then you'll go ahead and save that to a new lane. Also, here they are. Thank you, Jill. Instructional document, YouTube videos, they're already linked right here for you. So we will share out the slides. You can link right to those. And custom curation. So the lanes in action coming soon. This is what you will see for your libraries if you want them. Custom lanes with newly added titles for kids and adults, seasonal reads for kids and adults, and always available ebooks, which is simultaneous use content, which just means everybody can check it out at the same time. Great for classes, for book clubs. But yeah, so all of those are great to always make sure somebody has something to check out to read right now. Okay, and now with that, I think we're going to hand over to Carissa to talk about the collection manager and show you a demo.
All right, so you can see my screen. Excellent.
I see it.
I'm going to sign in here. One moment, pre-typed my credentials. So when you first log in, it'll always default to this catalog screen. And in the screenshots that Tara sent, actually, let me see if I can bump this up so it's easy for everybody to see. Does that increase the font? Does that look better for you all?
Yeah, it does.
Excellent. Okay. Um, so we're continuing to use our kind of Main Street City demo library, but the collection manager looks exactly the same. So when you first log in, it'll always default to your catalog screen. Kind of the main navigation items are up here in the kind of top center left-ish or so. And then the other kind of systems config and your account options when it's not fully bumped up are in the top right of the screen. They're a little bumped down because of the increased percentage here. Whoop. There we go. For most of you all, you'll have one library available in this dropdown. If you are a consortia administrator, you'll probably have all of your consortial member libraries that you can navigate between. But as Tara mentioned, you'll come to your catalog screen. She showed the screenshots of all of the lanes that you'll see is essentially a preview or a replica of what's in the app. You click on a book. That's how you get to the actual book metadata screen in the collection manager. To navigate to the other areas, again, it's just as simple as kind of hovering over and then clicking on the list builder interface. So I just wanted to quickly show this before we get into the data part of the collection manager, and then the lanes area as well. So you can very easily kind of toggle back and forth between all of these areas of the collection manager. I'm not going to wait for the catalog to load, so let's get to the dashboard. And then I think one of the other most critical areas of the collection manager is this dashboard area. So the dashboard in the collection manager, we call it kind of like the snapshot, essentially, of your usage. So you can see up to the minute current circulation activity. So this is real-time patron circulation within your library in the Palace app. So in our Main Street City, we have 20 patrons with active loans, and or loans and holds. You can see it below that. I'll come back to this usage reports area. I'm not ignoring it. You can see the collections that are configured in Main Street City. And for you all, you'll see the Rails collection coming in. You'll see the Palace bookshelf collection. And there's also a collection of materials that's part of eRead and the Rails collection coming from BiblioBoard as well. And then as we move forward, as your libraries decide whether to add additional integrations into Palace, I know some consortia and libraries are contemplating whether they want to add their Overdrive collections and their Overdrive Advantage collections. You would see those listed here in this box as well. If you happen to have a Blackstone Unlimited subscription, we have the opportunity to add that as well. If you're part of the Heartland library group, I know they leverage Cloud Library. So that's another opportunity to add here as well. And then additionally, you have the option to also purchase content for your own library from the Palace Marketplace as well. So if you decide to take that step forward, you would have your own individual library's Palace Marketplace account as well. For some of our libraries in other states, with a lot of shared statewide collections, their own individual collections coming in, this list can be quite robust. We could be looking at 10 to 15 to 20 different individual feeds or collections being integrated into Palace. So we're really excited when this list grows quite large. Again, we're just looking at our test Main Street City collection today. At the very bottom of this, we have a raw report of your circulation events that you can download. So if you click that download CSV, you'll get a pop-up window of kind of a start and end date. As you get more usage in Palace, you'll have a lot of circulation events. So as any server doesn't like, if you try to pull 2 years of circulation events and you've had a lot of circulation events, it probably won't download for you. So our recommendation is keep this window relatively short. But again, this is raw data. So what you'll see are all of the different events that we track, a timestamp, and then the metadata that event appeared on. So we'll dig into this in here in just a moment, but the kind of general events that you would expect a e-reading app to track: checkouts, downloads, open books, holds being placed, holds being canceled or released, holds lapsing or all events that we're tracking in the circulation events CSV. So again, if you're into raw data, you like Tableau or other external data manipulation tools, feel free to download that CSV. If data is not your thing, then we'll get into our own usage UI here in just a moment. So in the usage and reports area, you've got two kind of critical things that are made available to you. One of them is the request report button, which is essentially going to send you an email with attached CSV reports. I think they're CSV or Excel. Pretty sure they're CSV. Of all of your inventory of your titles that are integrated into Pallas. So the items that you see kind of from the configured collections below, you'll see a title by title list of that content that's integrated in the inventory report. This is generated on the fly. So as content is being indexed in the collection manager, so let me take a step back. All of these collections that are integrated into Pallas automatically add new content and index new content into the collection manager as it is purchased upstream. So as you buy content from the Pallas Marketplace, as the Rails team buys content from the Pallas Marketplace, again, if you had your Overdrive collection configured, as your consortia buys content from an Overdrive collection and it's integrated, all of those new purchases or license expiring events, all of that is automatically accounted for in the collection manager. So anytime you'd run the request report that generates your inventory, it's doing it on the fly. So you're getting the most up-to-date inventory report based on the data that's in our servers and our databases. So there's that. It does happen offline. It takes a few minutes to probably several minutes if you have a really large collection, but it's not usually too long of a time frame that elapses between clicking this button, and then it will email the email address that you're logged in as. Probably another critical thing I should point out automatically. I think that's probably all I'll say about the inventory reports. Those are pretty straightforward. They have all kind of the standard metadata for your titles, author, publisher, genre, audience, the collection it's in, the distributor that it's coming from, all of that sort of information. And then if you click on view usage, this will launch you into our what we call our expanded usage or data dashboard. We're leveraging a tool from Amazon called Amazon QuickSight, or I think they rebranded it now and it's called QuickSuite. I don't know why Amazon does these things to us. And we're actively working to launch this for Illinois libraries. So if you're following along live and you have access to your collection manager, this site won't load quite yet for you. Bear with us. We're working on getting that up and running for you all as you have patrons starting to use the Pallas app. 1 second, I'm just going to quickly peruse the chat to make sure that there are any specific questions that I wanted to address while I'm looking at these things. Oh, someone asked if we can see that CSV report. Yes, I'll come back. I'll come back and get a downloaded CSV report. I didn't have that one on the fly, but I can absolutely do that. And also, there's a preview of it essentially in this Amazon QuickSight as well. Sorry, I'm like scowling at my computer reading these chats. Want to make sure I'm if there's any direct questions while I'm showing my screen, we can address them. Okay, so just a quick overview of Amazon QuickSight. This is a tool actually that the three of us, the team that you're looking at, is building actively. It's something that we don't have to have a lot of engineering involvement with. Yay! Which means we can be more flexible and nimble to meet your needs. So we love to hear feedback. We plan to make improvements to this usage board dashboard as we move forward. So please don't hesitate to reach out with questions or suggestions or other ways to visualize data. I'm a data nerd, but not a visualization nerd. So I have a hard time when someone asks me a question of like a data question. I can give you factual information, but if there's like a visual in your head that you're envisioning, I'd love to talk to people who think about numbers in that way because it really helps me kind of frame improvements for this dashboard. All right, so we always launch you into kind of the start here. Welcome to Amazon QuickSight dashboard. The first dashboard that we're actively building out, so it's a little womp womp right now, but we're going to be adding more data to this, is your new patrons dashboard. So currently, the number that you see, the new patrons, is the number of new to Palace patrons or users, unique barcodes essentially, that have logged into your library in the Palace app for whatever time frame you'd like. By default, up here in this little collapsible, I think Amazon calls it a field well. It defaults to year to date, but you have any number of ways that you can configure this date if you wanted it the last day, the last month, the last quarter. If your fiscal year is blah, 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 blah. You can put an absolute date range. If I literally just wanted from last Tuesday to this Friday, well, obviously you can't go in future. You can't go into the future because there's no data in the future yet, but you know what I mean. You can be very specific in terms of what time frame you want to report here. And actually, let me just do that. So right now it's year to date. Let's go back to, let's just make this from July 1 to December. So if I adjust that, you can see that hopefully you saw it went from 52 to 26. So just in the time frame from July until today, we've had 26 new folks sign into our Main Street Cine demo library that had never signed in before. Coming soon, we're going to have active users here as well in a couple different time frames. So I think our default is going to be monthly active users. So that'll be different from your kind of holistic totality of new users and give you an indication of how many of all of the people who have ever signed into your library, how many are actively doing checkouts and placing holds in the last month. It'll be configurable, so you can say the last week, the last quarter, whatever time frame you want to look at activity over and which number of unique patrons have placed a hold, checked out a title, that sort of had activity in the Palace app. So that'll be coming soon. And we'll continue to kind of flesh this tab out as well. And then the next two tabs are exactly the same in terms of the visuals that are included on them. The main difference is just the time frame. So the current circulation tab is showing you just the last 2 weeks of activity. And then the historical circulation tab is, again, all of the same graphs. The time frame is just year to date. So you can do like a quick comparison. You've got total checkouts, total holds, those numbers broken out by format, by licensed or open access. Again, the same exact charts here, just over the last 2 weeks. I'll look at historical circulation because on our demo, we don't have a lot of data. So it's going to be more exciting to look at this here. You can quickly see a line chart of checkouts over time. And again, this is year to date. We could change this from the beginning of time to now if we wanted to do that as well here. Let me collapse that again, sorry. And then there's all different ways, obviously, to slice and dice this data. And because Palace is an aggregator app, we try to provide the Venn diagram of options available that you might be interested in. So this is all checkouts by audience, and this is audience of the titles that's assigned to the titles, not actually like the age of your patrons checking things out because we don't know that. We've got circulation broken out by distributor. Again, this is a critical, and then by format. And this is a critical graph, I know, for folks, especially who have integrated Overdrive. They like to see kind of how their Overdrive materials are circling in Palace versus kind of the Palace native content. Let's see, keep scrolling down here. And then at the very bottom, we have your top circulating ebooks and audiobooks by title, the top 10. And again, for this time period, it's over for the year to date. All right, moving along here. Then we have kind of drilling down even kind of into more information kind of at the collection level. Again, this one defaults to year to date as well. Most of these do, with the exception of the current circulation, which is the last 2 weeks. So you can see all of your circulation broken out by format by month. I know that's another kind of critical way that libraries report on usage externally. Um, we have a line chart just so you can see the ebbs and flows of checkouts of your content by format over time. Again, pretty much the same data in the left chart as it is in the line graph, but if you're more visual, we kind of like to provide both snapshots of the data. And then your monthly holds again by format over time. Um, we added some pie charts just for fun and color and for people who like this view of your data. So checkouts by distributor year to date, color coded here on the right hand side, checkouts by audience, and then checkouts by collection source. Some of these are a little bit there is a kind of a slider that's embedded here, depending on how big these bar charts are. Um, so sometimes you just kind of have to hover over to play with that. And then we have checkouts by language. If I can scroll down to the bottom of my screen. Hold on, let me get back over here. There we go. And then checkouts by genre at the very bottom. As you might have noticed when I have been kind of hovering over any of these kind of individual boxes, these distinct graphics, you have a couple different options within QuickSight. And don't hesitate to play around in QuickSight because any of the adjustments that you make aren't saving back to the kind of originating source. And you can just hit reload to like default back to anything. So I encourage people to play with this. So if you want to see this, for example, let's do the monthly checkout line chart by format. You can maximize it if you want to just see like, ooh, the line charts in your face. Additionally, you can click on the applied filters. And this is really where it gets to, I think, if you're a data nerd, be really exciting because you can see how I have structured this chart. You can see I've filtered the data coming in. That's just year to date. I'm only including, obviously, checkouts for this, and it's just including the library that you have access to. But you could add an additional filter here by any of these additional kind of parameters. So if you wanted checkouts just based on a particular genre, you could do that. You click here and it probably takes a little getting used to. The QuickSight UI is definitely built by engineers. You can tell. But if you wanted a particular genre to include, let's see, I'm trying to think what even genre. Let's do mystery. See if we can search for that. So let's do whatever this one is. Scroll down here. There's a whole bunch of different things that apply to mystery. Here we go. Can I get to the bottom of this? Maybe I can. Let's hit apply. No data. It wasn't a good example. We'll check that. Let's see if there's something else we can. Romance. Try that. Let's select anything that matches romance. Hit apply. There we go. Okay, that's better. And let me see. I'll hide this little edit filter. Okay, so now we have adjusted this chart to just romance checkouts year to date based on format. So again, these are like infinitely customizable. And if you want to just go back to what it originally was, which was like the totality of checkouts, you simply click reload and then navigate back to the collection tab. And then it will clear out that filter. So again, I encourage folks to play around. That's really kind of what this is meant for, is to allow you to easily manipulate your data, especially if you don't have your own kind of external tools. Of course, you don't have to. If you'd like to see your data spliced in a certain way, please feel free to reach out to us. All right, I could talk about data all day, so I'm gonna do my best not to. In the title circulation details tab, we're getting very granular. So this will give you all of the titles that we have in your collection that are circulating, check out totals. And again, this is defaulting to kind of the previous year. It should be year to date. I don't know why it's previous year. I'll have to update that in the settings. So just notice it's previous year. So that should be year to date. And then you can see, again, this is titles broken out by format and then by license. So if you have a licensed copy of Pride and Prejudice, but you also have the open access copy of it, the public domain, you can see kind of parsing of those checkouts. And then we have, again, at the title level, if I scroll all the way down, this is a really long list. We do the same reporting, but for holds on the titles in your collection as well. I'm working on making this information slightly more visual. I haven't come upon the best type of visual to match this data. So again, this is where I would call upon any suggestions for a better way to kind of summarize this data. Okay, and then finally is essentially the same exact data that you would get in that export CSV. It's also visually represented here, and you can also export it. So it is all of the checkout and circulation events that our system is tracking. So as I mentioned, we obviously are tracking check-ins and checkouts of materials. Fulfillment is kind of the final or the next step in checking the title out. So once you hit checkout, it actually like downloads and borrows to your device. So that's kind of a fulfillment. And then an open book event is anytime a patron opens that title after they've checked it out, of course, on their device. So you would expect, unless you have folks that are avid readers and they read their title in all in one sitting, you'd have a lot of open book events per one checkout event. And then we have, let's see if we've got any holds. We probably don't have a lot of holds in our demo account because we don't, it's just for our staff members. But you will also see holds being placed, holds being canceled, holds lapsing here as well in the event type. And we have, of course, documentation that has all of the different event types that explains exactly what this kind of shorthand means. So don't feel like you have to memorize that. We have written documentation that we'll send along with this. You can see all of the metadata for the titles that those events are occurring on. So as I mentioned, the collection name, title author, excuse me, identifier, publisher, distributor, genre, audience, medium, the language, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, licensed or not, open access or not. And then if you are part of a consortia, you are a consortia administrator, you have access to multiple libraries. You can also download a full report of all of the circulation that's happening for all of your members, and then slice and dice however you'd like as well. So that's another metadata item that we're tracking as well that you can parse by. I'm trying to think if there's anything else here. Hold on, let me go back to the questions real quick. So someone asked, can circulation events or usage and reports handle a month's worth of circulation data? Sometime in January, could we see the way the CSV looks when we open it? So the CSV looks almost exactly similar to this chart that I'm showing you in QuickSight, but let me just download that here. So I'm going to go back to November just so we have a good sample. And yes, you should be able to run a month's worth of circulation events. I think until you get up into like the thousands and thousands of circs in a month, that's when our kind of the automated download isn't really happy about that, but you absolutely should be able to do that. So one moment, bear with me here. Oh, it's going to open up in numbers. I don't want it to open up in numbers. That's all right. So again, this should look exactly as the same as it did in QuickSight. So you've got your timestamp, your events, and all of the same metadata. It's just in a different order in the CSV. I tried to order it logically in QuickSight because I had control of this, and this spreadsheet is just kind of pulling it directly from our database. But it's all of the same metadata elements. So hopefully that answers that question. All right, I think, just poke around here. I think that's all. I think that's all I wanted to share. So I can stop sharing unless there's other, well, actually, before I do that, I should say, are there any other data questions and or on the fly live CM questions that people want me to demonstrate? keep looking at the chat. Doo-doo-doo. And then someone asked for configured collections is the eRead IL collection called Rails Palace Marketplace. So yes, the majority of that eRead collection is called Rails Palace Marketplace. There is a Rails BiblioBoard collection as well. And so that is also part of the eRead Rails collection. As Tara mentioned in the response, that is called Rails BiblioBoard Migrated Collection. So those two kind of feeds of content are what comprise the Rails eRead collection. So you'll see both of those, or you should see both of those. All of the libraries should see both of those in their configured collections window in the collection manager. Other questions that we can answer for everybody here. I'll stop sharing for now, and I can always reshare if I need to. All right, we've got a long one. Question about holds. Could you please clarify how when patrons are notified when holds are ready? I'd had 2 holds reservations in the app for a week, and this morning when I was testing the app to explain things to a patron, the reservations tab was blank, and the titles weren't in my books tab either. I looked them up in the collection, and both were available, so I clicked borrow and checked them both out. I don't want patrons to be confused if that happens to them. Should I have gotten a message when I opened the app? How does the app notify about reservations coming available, and how long does a patron have to check items out once the reservations become available? So you can enable push notifications on your device when you first install Palace or at any point thereafter. So you should have gotten a push notification if you had titles on hold that they were available. The setting from Rails on their collection for licensed content is that you have 2 days to check an item out until the reservation kind of auto returns back like to the next person in the holds queue. That's customizable. So that was set by Rails to mimic what was in Boundless. There's also, if you don't have push notifications enabled, there's also in-app notifications. So if you look at the icon, your Palace icon on your device, it'll have a little identifier, like a 1 or a 2 or a little red dot, depending on whether you're iOS or Android, that there's also activity that will indicate that a hold is ready. So hopefully that answers your question. If there's more follow-up, let us know. So the push notification said items were available a few days ago, but when I opened the app, the reservations were unavailable. I guess so you did receive a push notification. It said the items were available, and then you went to the app immediately and they weren't there. So it sounds like, if I'm understanding that, then you received the push notifications essentially too late. Is that what I'm and we can also
I'm so sorry. This is Dana. I'm the one that's like sending the way long chat. I'm so sorry.
okay.
It's just one of those things where um almost immediately once I placed the hold, I was getting a little dot like with a number in the corner of the app that said 1 when I had 1 hold and 2 when I had 2 holds. And then when my screen was locked, I got a notification that said, "Oh, the Palace Project wants you to know that your stuff is available." Like over the weekend, 2 or 3 days ago. But when I went in, it said, "Nope, you're 1 of 1 or second in line, so they're not ready yet." So I'm just querying if there's maybe a glitch or a hiccup that maybe needs to be double checked. Because one of my
Yeah.
coworkers had that question last week too. So I just wanted to bring it up so maybe the team could double check. So that way
Yeah.
patrons don't get confused.
Can you send to the support email address your device information? So, and your colleagues if they had the same issue. So your iOS or Android, the operating system version and the version of Palace that you're running, that would be super helpful.
I can do that. Thank you.
Yes. And then, so Tara put in the chat, I know this is a common question that we've been receiving. So the Rails eRead checkout settings that were ported over from Boundless, so these should match and shouldn't be too much of a surprise. The loan and checkout duration is 2 weeks, 14 days. The loan and hold limit per patron is 5 each, And then you have a 2-day period to, once your hold becomes available, to actually take action upon it, or otherwise it will return back to the next person, revert back to the next person on the list. Someone asked a great question. Can you include multiple lists when creating lanes? Yes, you absolutely can. We had a partner library create a wonderful graphic that used the metaphor that lanes are like a book bag, and you can put any number of notebooks, books, pieces of paper, pens, pencils into your book bag, and those are kind of metaphorically your lists. So yes, you can have any number of lists comprising your lanes, and you can kind of swap them in and out. That's not set in stone either. So you can have 5 lists that build into a lane. In a month from now, you can remove 2 of them and just leave the 3, or swap them all out entirely. Absolutely. Great question.
I can share my screen to show that too,
Yeah,
Carissa.
excellent.
Okay. Can you see the screen?
We can.
Okay, so just before we go on, so I'm here on the lanes tab. So this is kind of like what you saw in my screenshot, but if you wanted to go ahead and make a list or a lane with multiple lists, and then here's where you would find the subscribed to see what's been shared with you, and then the own to see the ones that you've made. So basically, if this is my, combined lane, you would save the name, and then what you do is you drag the multiple lists like this. So now everything that you pulled in here, once you save it, that's going to go ahead and put that on the top level. And everything, all the content from all those lists will be in this one lane. And now you see it's over here at the very top. And then if you go to your catalog screen, that lane with all those combined lists will also show up there at the top. That makes sense.
I was going to say, Tara, I think
Yeah,
the new
please.
and noteworthy lane also has 2 lists in it currently, if you wanted to show
Aha.
what that looks like.
Thank you. Yes, excellent. So here's new and noteworthy. And so if you want to go back and edit a list or a lane afterwards, they're over here under the lane manager. Jill's talking about new and noteworthy here. So I'm going to click edit, and you can see lists in this lane. So it's these 2 from November and December, new and noteworthy titles there. And then
Yeah.
if you want to get rid, you can just click remove from lane, or you could always drag it back over here. And then you just need to make sure you click save. Is there anything else you wanted to share, Jill, while we're here?
No, that was perfect.
All right, excellent.
I'll just note, because the 3 of us have experienced this pain, the interface does not autosave.
No,
Yes, I know it's 2025 and we all assume that it does that, but the collection
is.
manager is not in 2025. So you have to manually hit save as you're working. And our best practice, we say, is again, it's not 2025 to the collection manager. It's like 2003. Let's really throw it back. So our recommendation is, as you're working building lists and lanes, every 10 to 15 minutes or so, just click that save button so you don't have to rebuild your work. It's something that our engineers are aware of, will work to address. I think from a partner priority perspective, we've always been focusing on the mobile apps first and the collection manager, because it's just not touching your patrons. Is kind of lower on the priority list, but just wanted to share that recommendation.
We have a very long list of asks of our engineers when we finally get to the point where we can kind of shift gears again, which, hopefully will address some of the user interface and user experience things for librarians at some point. So if you are in here and come across some pain points and want to provide us feedback, you're more than welcome to reach out to me and we'll document it.
Thank you.
Yep, Tara's pulling up our feedback board, which we leverage FeedBear. That's the name of the tool. So please don't hesitate to upvote. Look through the ones that are there. Your idea might already be there, and upvote it or add a new one.
Yeah, you can search with the little magnifying glass here, or you can just scroll through and then, click on anything to upvote. So feel free to do that, or email Jill, email myself, email support@thepalsproject.org. And sorry, one last thing that I wanted to show you for sharing. So these have already been shared, but basically you would click this to share out the list that you made with everybody else if you wanted to. So there. All right,
Yes,
pass back
and
to Carissa.
I was
Okay.
going to say about the sharing, it'll be visible to anyone that has access to the collection. So if you're using the solely the eRead Illinois collections, anyone that has access to eRead Illinois will see that in their subscribed list. But if you're using Overdrive titles and a library doesn't have access to that Overdrive collection, it won't show up in their subscribed.
And then we have another question in the chat. Do you know if the Palace Collection Manager usage reports can be imported into Patron Point? I don't know that. I've not used Patron Point. I don't know what import parameters that system is looking for. The exports coming from the collection manager are standardized. They don't change much. But I don't know if that would be something that is importable into Patron Point. So I'm not going to be able to provide much more insight there. I'm sorry, but if there were kind of specific parameters that we needed to follow or a certain structure, that would be useful for us to know because we could potentially provide that export format, assuming it wasn't something really wild, which
Absolutely.
I can't imagine it would be.
And Lily, if you could let us know if that's something that's affiliated with your ILS or if it's like another third party tool that you use, like a Communico or something of that sort, that would help us too.
Other questions. We have about 7 minutes left. I think this might be our first session for Illinois libraries that has not run over time. Knock on wood, but we will certainly take more questions if there are more.
Aha, I had a feeling. So this, yeah, definitely reach out to your Communico rep or go into the tool to see what type of information you need. We don't have an integration with them right now, but if that's something that would be beneficial to you, we can have our business development director pursue that. I know he's spoken with them in the past, but they have so many different tools at this point that it might be something special. So awesome. Thank you. And just a couple of things because we started talking about the custom curations that we've been doing. I've been working with Rails. Anna and I will be working together, thinking about things moving forward. But I think the plan after these initial first lanes are made live for everyone, is that we'll do maybe monthly curations that will be shared as a list, and you can opt in to create that shared lane. So that's why it makes sense for us to share those resources with you. I can definitely do one-on-one trainings, but we're still trying to figure out how to scale this in a way that makes sense for our team. We do have some volunteer librarians from our curation core that'll be helping us, but definitely something to think about. We're still here. We're going to help the best we can.
A new question in the chat. Can we say things like who is in the hold queue for a certain title? Excellent question. The simple answer is no, but I want to add some context around that. So the Palace project is really focused on patron privacy, and we don't capture and store usage information tied to the patron's barcode. Just here within the last year, we have started to capture an anonymized identifier that can't be reassociated with the patron's barcode so that we can report on things like unique active users. But at this point in our data, we are not storing straight up patron barcode information, kind of identifying information and associating it with all of these events. Again, like to preserve patron privacy. I know that can cause for situations like this that are more patron support or kind of more discrete patron usage reporting information that I know many libraries are kind of that they have to do. We're kind of trying to strike that balance as we move forward in order to preserve patron privacy, but also make the tools useful in Palace. So kind of that's the context around the answer, but the short answer is no. Currently, you can't see patron barcodes or whatever your identifiers are. I think for the most of public libraries, it's obviously barcode. which patrons are in the hold queue for a particular title. If your patron has a problem with a hold, is there something you can do on the admin side? There isn't. There aren't admin tools for you. There aren't admin tools for us, actually, either. So we don't see that information either. In terms of, I know other systems allow you to kind of manipulate that holds queue, move patrons up or down. Like I said, we don't have that information even associated with the patron's barcode in our database to make it available in our user interface at this point. Yes, totally understand coming at that question from a patron support view. That is the balance that's kind of tenuous balance that's hard to strike when we're trying to preserve patron privacy, but then there's impacts on actual kind of logistical support and then also on reporting as well. That can sometimes move the pendulum back towards not being quite so preserving of patron privacy. So yes, I knew this question was probably coming. If a patron gets a new library card number, is there any way for them to access the checkouts holds connected with the old card? Not currently. There isn't, unfortunately, in our system, like to transfer them over, essentially. Okay, more questions coming in. Can searches sort to have audiobook results filtered, or is it always a mix of ebook and audiobook in search results? Currently, I do not believe in the Palace app, I think is what we're referencing now, not the collection manager. Search results give you mixed results. I don't think that there's a filter for format, but let me just
Yeah, there's a
I-
filter at the top.
Is there?
If
Yeah.
you filter the catalog page to only show ebooks. Oh, no, nope, it is fighting me right now. All right. There should be an option to do this. But this is to say that we do have some new search facets forthcoming. One of the things that we have had our engineers working on, were search by or filtering by publication date, by language, and there are a few others. And I believe the design work for these have been done. It just hasn't been implemented yet. So more faceting in the app coming soon.
So here at the top of the catalog screen, hopefully this is what we're talking about here. There is the default, which shows all, which is both ebook and audiobook in your results. But you can decide to just pick either just ebooks or just audiobooks in your results.
I think if you go to the search bar, Tara, and search for like gardening, there isn't a filter, I don't think, there to filter just to like ebooks or audiobooks.
I see. Yeah, sorry. Yes, I agree. Let's double check that here. But yeah, you're right. So
I feel like at one point it did it. I never know anymore. I feel like we conflate things in here because we're in the app so much. But you are able to, I think when you drill down into the lanes, so if you're working and browsing from the catalog, if you've set those filters, they are, it does go down into the lane level from the catalog. Where it does not stand is within the search option. So that would be part of our search faceting that is coming down the line. And I believe the plan is to have all of the filtering tools and faceting tools that are available in the catalog and in the lanes mimic what's available or will be available in the search option as well. So it's consistent throughout.
And then there's just a follow-up app question. Will there be an option in the future to only see items that are currently available to check out rather than place a hold? So that, to Jill's point, that is default when you're browsing in the lanes right now. It's just not a filter that's available when you do in your search results. So the answer is like halfway there to the question about being able to filter to just available items. So that does exist right now when you're browsing in the app. There's kind of the availability, and we default it to available now when we set up the library configurations, I just had an Illinois library reach out and they said, no, we want it to default to all. We don't want to just see available now. So that is something that we can adjust per a library basis if you don't want it to be all available now, but that's what we default to. But yes, it will be coming soon when we're talking about just that search results screen. All right, other questions? I know we're now over time. So thank you all for attending today's session. Excellent. I don't see any other questions. We'll send out the recording, links to the slides, of course. There's another session tomorrow morning, so feel free to join us. It'll be the same
Yes.
thing, but if you think of other questions that you would have liked to ask, then feel free to join us. 10
And you can-
a.m. Central Time.
Yep. And you can always reach out to us via email as well. If you ever need us to go through things with you and it's easier for you to see it visually, I'm always happy to hop on a call too.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Bye.